Amid the growing climb of the war between Russia and Ukraine, a new threat began to haunt the backstage of European military strategy. On June 1, 2025, Ukraine carried out a coordinated drone attack on 4 air bases in Russian territory. The action destroyed several strategic aircraft and significantly shook Russia's long-range attack. It was a direct blow to the backbone of Moscow military aviation, and, as expected, was not unanswered. Only hours later, Dmitry Medvedev, vice president of the Russian Security Council, made a statement that burned backstage of geopolitics. It will rain Oreshnik over Ukraine. And this phrase was not a metaphor. But before we dive into this real and growing threat, a quick pause. If you enjoy trails, mountaineering, or need a reliable boot for everyday life, get to Hiker Pro. Produced with legitimate high-drafted leather, waterproof membrane, and a light high-tensile sole, it ensures protection on any terrain. The insole is ergonomic and has antibacterial treatment. Comfort, safety, and durability in a single footwear. Link in the description to learn more. Returning to the point, the Oreshnik missile is everything but symbolic. It is a medium-range ballistic missile, a direct evolution of the dreaded RS-26 Rubesh. But unlike its intercontinental predecessor, Oreshnik has been modified to reach targets with even more accuracy, speed, and unpredictability. Its range is estimated at up to 5,000 kilometers, allowing Russia to reach virtually anywhere in continental Europe and even strategic areas of Asia. What really impresses is its speed. It surpasses Mach 10, that is, travels to over 12,000 kilometers per hour. In a few minutes, it can cross thousands of kilometers and reach its goal before any traditional defense system can react. But this is just the beginning. Oreshnik is equipped with MIRV multiple independent reentry warheads. This means that instead of carrying a single explosive warhead, it carries several smaller warheads that can separate in the middle of the flight and reach different targets simultaneously. Each warhead may contain specific submunitions for the destruction of infrastructures, radars, barracks, logistics deposits, or command centers. A single shooting may be equivalent to several conventional attacks performed in isolation. And there is another factor that complicates any attempt to intercept: the loft trajectory. Unlike a conventional missile that follows a predictable route, Oreshnik rises at a sharper angle, making it much harder to detect early on conventional radars. It remains invisible for much of its journey, only being identified when it is already in terminal phase, a few seconds of the impact. This dramatically reduces response time. And even in this brief moment of detection, he is still able to maneuver, diverting from interceptor missiles with rapid and unpredictable movements. The technology employed in this weapon was developed to circumvent the most advanced West systems, and has worked. Ukraine, although equipped with Patriot batteries and other air defense systems provided by Western allies, simply does not have the appropriate means to counteract such a hypersonic attack. The only systems with some chance against Oreshnik, such as the United States SM-3 missiles, were not sent to the Ukrainian territory. And it seems they will not be. Washington's current stance, avoiding providing armaments that may cause a nuclear response from Russia, wages any possibility of reinforcement at this level. This leaves Ukraine exposed to a kind of threat to which, so far, has no shield. Medvedev knows that. Your statement is not just a bravado, it is a carefully calculated psychological pressure. By announcing the possible use of Oreshnik, it not only threatens the destruction of strategic targets, but installs fear, doubt, and the need for tactical redirect on the part of the Ukrainian armed forces. Just the fact that Ukraine needs to consider this threat in its calculations already represents an imbalance in the battlefield. And this, perhaps, is Russia's main goal at this time, to show that it can change the rules of the game with just one movement. Oreshnik, despite being a relatively new weapon, was first used confirmed in November 2024, less than a year before the Ukrainian attack that caused the current climb. At the time, he hit a weaponry factory in the city of Dnipro. Interestingly, the missile did not carry explosives, which indicates that the goal was not to destroy the place, but to send a clear message. Russia has this weapon and is willing to use it as a form of intimidation. This demonstration of strength had great psychological impact not only in Ukraine, but also on Western allies, which saw the new reality of a conflict that could become even more dangerous. Since then, Oreshnik's development and production have advanced, albeit in limited numbers. This is because its manufacture requires cutting-edge technology and heavy research investment, especially to ensure accuracy and maneuvering during hypersonic flight. Russia knows that the simple existence of this weapon already represents a strategic advantage, as it forces opponents to invest in very specific, expensive, and complex defenses, while their own resources can be directed to other military sectors. The Ukrainian forces now face a difficult dilemma. On the one hand, they need to protect their critical infrastructures and cities from possible attacks with Oreshnik. On the other hand, this threat limits your offensive options, as any aggressive action against Russia can trigger a devastating retaliation with these hypersonic missiles. This situation creates a tactical and political impasse that makes the conflict even more dangerous, with increasing risks of climbing to levels that Europe has not seen from the Cold War. In addition to the direct impact on the battlefield, Oreshnik has global consequences. The possibility of a tactical nuclear conflict increases as the parties involved try to balance themselves between the deterrent and the demonstration of strength. Allied countries of Ukraine, especially NATO members, are concerned for the evolution of this technology, as it represents a new class of weapons that can be replicated or causing a 1960s space-like arms race. Another relevant point is the psychological effect that Oreshnik exerts on the civil populations of Ukraine. The constant fear of quick attacks, almost impossible to predict or intercept, generates a sense of deep vulnerability, affecting the morals and routine of millions of people. The war, which already brings physical devastation, now adds a component of technological insecurity that redefines the concept of total war. Refuges, shelters, and protection strategies need to be adapted to deal with the speed and destructive power of these new weapons. In the diplomatic sphere, the use of Oreshnik also complicates negotiations and any attempted ceasefire or peace agreement. Russia, by demonstrating its power with this weapon, reinforces its power position, making it difficult to commit to the Ukrainian side. Power balance changes rapidly, and negotiations are shaped by this new tactical and strategic factor, which makes any conversation more tense and complex. Although it is still an experimental and limited weapon, Oreshnik represents a significant change in the dynamics of modern war. Its ability to accurate multiple targets, its hypersonic velocity, and the challenge it represents for existing defense systems put it as a watershed. For Ukraine, it is a new type of threat that requires quick adaptations and innovative solutions to try to balance the balance. At the moment, the Ukrainian response focuses on strengthening conventional defenses, increasing electronic surveillance, and trying to develop countermeasures that may reduce the impact of these attacks. However, without the technological support and the most advanced equipment of its allies, especially in the field of hypersonic defense, this task becomes increasingly arduous and full of uncertainties. It is a race against time, where the future of the conflict and the security of Europe are at stake. For this scenario, the threat of the Oreshnik missile imposes a new geopolitical and military reality that goes beyond direct conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The impact of this hypersonic weapon can alter power balances throughout Europe and Asia, especially in regions near the missile's maximum range, which can reach 5,000 kilometers, practically covering almost the entire European continent and vast areas of Asian territory. This places allied countries on maximum warning that need to rethink their defense and cooperation strategies. The fact that Oreshnik is able to transport multiple independent warheads, the so-called MIRVs, further increases their lethality and complexity. This is because each missile can release several submunitions that reach different targets, making it difficult to intercept and maximize the damage caused. In tactical terms, it is a decisive advantage as it allows to attack various bases, logistics centers, or strategic facilities in a single release. For Ukraine, this represents a huge challenge, as their defenses need to be simultaneously flexible and robust to deal with multiple attack vectors. In addition, Oreshnik's flight system, with its trajectory in loft, a sharp elevation angle along the way, and the speed that exceeds Mach 10, makes it virtually invisible to traditional radars until it is very close to the target. This dramatically reduces the reaction time of the defenses, even the most advanced, such as the Patriot systems used by Ukraine and its Western allies. The absence of effective hypersonic defenses in Ukraine aggravates the situation, and the refusal to supply systems such as SM-3 by the US due to political issues further hinders the response against this threat. The combination of these factors generates a scenario of uncertainty and constant tension, with Ukraine pressured to keep their defense systems at maximum alert and to look for technological alternatives to mitigate risks. The race for innovative solutions, either through internal development or international cooperation, is accelerated as any delay can mean significant human and strategic losses. In the psychological sphere, Oreshnik's ability to reach targets with high precision and extreme speed creates an environment of fear and anxiety in the civilian population and military forces. The perception of vulnerability increases, and with it the need for preventive measures and effective communication to maintain the moral and resilience of the nation. It is a war that occurs in both the physical field and in the emotional and psychological dimension. Meanwhile, the Russian government uses this weapon as a central piece of its strategy of dissuasion and political pressure. President Medvedev and other leaders have reiterated his commitment to use Oreshnik in response to any aggression, reinforcing that the escalation of conflict can reach levels never seen before. This rhetorical serves to maintain uncertainty about the next steps and to try to intimidate both Ukraine and its allies. For European countries, the advancement of this Russian technology represents a call for attention to the urgent need for investments in anti-missile defense and systems capable of dealing with hypersonic threats. Cooperation between nations, intelligence information sharing, and the joint development of technologies become priorities to prevent instability in the region from becoming a global crisis. In this context, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which is already one of the most complex and dangerous of today, gains a new dimension with the introduction of the Oreshnik missile. Its speed, maneuvering, multiple warheads, and the devastating psychological effect imposes a challenge that goes far beyond the battlefield, involving geopolitics, technology, and survival. Thus, Oreshnik's threat cannot be underestimated, and Ukraine's response, its allies, and the international community must be firm, fast, and coordinated. The safety of the continent and global stability depend directly on the ability to deal with this new military and technological reality. If you want to continue following this detailed analysis and stay on top of the latest news about the conflict and the military technologies involved, be sure to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Your support is critical so that we can bring relevant and in-depth content, helping you better understand the world we live in. Thanks for watching, and until the next video.